This is going to be a short one. This is a review, partial review of Better Than Life, a Red Dwarf novelization by Grant Naylor, who is one of the main creative forces, if not the main creative force behind Red Dwarf, which I'm a big fan of Red Dwarf. I love this show. I even love the later seasons. In fact, it's one of the few shows where they brought it back for season 10, which was actually about over a decade after the previous season and the previous full season. And it was as good as the show had ever been. It's like it picked up right where it left off, even though all of the actors were older, all of the people making the show were older. They brought in some new people too, and they were able to recapture the spirit of the show, and it was fantastic. I've never seen anything quite like it. Now, I didn't watch, I believe they made a season 11 and 12, and I haven't seen those, so I can't speak to those. But anyway, I'm a big fan of Red Dwarf. I grew up with it. It's the kind of show that it's up there for me with Futurama in terms of sci-fi comedies, and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, although I'm not a fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy personally, but Red Dwarf and Futurama, for me, those are the two like pinnacles of science fiction comedy, because they satirize science fiction, but in a respectful way. You can tell that the people kind of making fun of the tropes of science fiction at the same time love those tropes. They're doing it in a good-natured way. And so I love that kind of thing, that kind of self-aware, ironic, kind of tongue-in-cheek type humor. But anyway, this book, I didn't finish it, and I wasn't a fan of it, and I can't recommend it to really anyone. I can't recommend it to Red Dwarf fans. I can't recommend it to people who have never... I certainly can't recommend it to people who have never heard of Red Dwarf, because they'll be totally lost. But even if you're a fan of Red Dwarf, the problem is this is like the previous novel, which I tried to read years ago, which was just a straight-up novelization of the first season with some extra exposition here and there. That's what this one is too. And I love the exposition because in the show Red Dwarf, we don't actually get to see a lot of like what Earth is like in this world and what the culture is like with people, because most obviously the entire series takes place after the human race has died out, and they only reference what the world that they're from is like. So I enjoy that. And there is some of that in this novel too, but it's largely just almost a word-for-word kind of mashup of scenes from the show. I thought that this novel would be different because it's titled Better Than Life, which is named after a specific episode, whereas the previous book was like The Universe Welcomes Careful Drivers or something like that. This is actually named after a specific episode, so I thought that it would be a straight up novelization of that episode. But when you look at how thick the novel is, that it would really expand upon it, and with added exposition and added kind of detail, and just pad out the plot more so that it's basically the same story but expanded. I thought that was a really cool concept, and I was looking forward to that because Better Than Life is one of my favorite Red Dwarf episodes because it tackles the subject of virtual reality, which is one of my favorite sci-fi subjects. And I thought it would be really cool to take that episode and expand it into a novel. And that's not what happened here. The first, something like 50 pages are that, but it starts in the middle of the story. Like, basically, they've already been in Better Than Life for a long period of time. I think it's like 2 years they were stuck in Better Than Life, and like either trying to get out or just kind of not wanting to get out. And so it kind of starts in what should be the middle of the story, so that was kind of a red flag. And then the whole Better Than Life plot gets resolved after like 50 pages or something, and it moves on to a different storyline, which really disappointed me. And honestly, Grant Naylor, This is close, I think, to false advertisement. Because here I showed you the back here. There's no mention of like, oh, we're gonna talk about Better Than Life, and then we're gonna move on to other things. It really makes it, the outside of the book, the exterior really makes it look like you're going to stay in the Better Than Life plot line. And that's just not what happens. So, I'm sure that there were people who bought this book and appreciated it because they were just collectors of Red Dwarf stuff. I'm a big fan of Red Dwarf, but I'm not a collector. I'm not going to buy something just because it has Red Dwarf on it. So, I personally kind of felt like it was a bit of a waste of time. And I was a little annoyed too. And I think Grant Naylor, I don't know if he knew what he was doing when he was being misleading like this, but it just, I was, as someone who has a house full of books to read, I was kind of annoyed that I kind of wasted my time on this. Of course, this was published like 35 years ago, so I'm a little bit late to the party criticizing this novel. I don't even know if Grant Naylor is still alive. If he is still alive, he's got to be elderly at this point. But yeah, just was not worth my time. Another thing is, like, even if it, in fairness, even if it were a straight novelization or a novelization of just this episode, which I think would have been cool, it would have been hard. It's hard to novelize Red Dwarf anyway, because Red Dwarf is so much made what it is by the performance of the actors. And they're not just the lines of the script, but their delivery of the lines and their expressions, their performances. Those actors are their characters, which is one reason why they were able to bring the show back without missing a beat, is because those actors just have their characters down. And it just makes it feel so familiar, even if it's been 10 years since they've been added. And so reading these characters on the page without the performances of the actors is just not quite, it's not satisfying. You just cannot capture these characters on the page. So in fairness to Grant Naylor, even if he had written a Better Than Life novelization of my dreams, it would have been damn hard, if not impossible, to really make it feel like Red Dwarf. In the most important way, because the characterization and the comedy from the characterization and the poignancy too, to a certain extent, is so much in the DNA of Red Dwarf and what makes Red Dwarf what it is, that in fairness it would be difficult. So this is just a kind of a buyer beware warning. Of course, if you're buying this thing, you're probably going to be buying it at a thrift store these days, but still don't just save your $1.88 or $2.88 or whatever it's going to cost. Even if you're a Red Dwarf fan, unless you're like hardcore, like I said, and you just want to collect everything Red Dwarf, because this isn't what you think it is. And it's a shame. If I want to like re-experience the TV show, I'll just watch the TV show. I'm not going to read a novel that's basically just a script of the show. So that's just my input on that. I don't have the green sticker of achievement on there, of course, because I didn't finish it. And I'm not going to save it either. I'm going to probably like try to sell this book to a consignment store, because I'm just so annoyed by the fact that it's not what it appears to be. And all that being said, of course, I love Red Dwarf. Like I said, it got me through a lot of hard times growing up. It was kind of dark and depressing in the very same way that like being an unpopular adolescent is. So it really kind of helped me, it made me laugh, but it also made me feel like I wasn't alone in some ways. So thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this. Am I being too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough? I think I'm being just factual. I'm just telling you like what I expected and hoped for versus what happened, what the reality was. So, the reality was definitely not Better Than Life. So, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next vid.